So we have our actions and our reducers for our add to cart functionality. And now we just want to finish this up in this page here within our cart screen. So let's go ahead and make some imports here. And I just want to quickly import use effect here from React. So the use effect, and we also want a link from React router DOM. So we'll just do import from React router dash DOM, and this is going to be link. And next, import is going to be use dispatch and use selector. So we will need to actually grab the data. So this will be from React Redux. So React Redux, and we will use dispatch and use selector. Use selector, and then we need a few React Bootstrap components. So we'll just do a few here. So from React, that's Bootstrap. From here, we are going to get now get row. We'll also need a call, and we want uh, column also here, and list group image we want, and form. The list group, then image, form, and button and card. So button and card. So I think that's it from React Bootstrap for now. And we need to import a few imports, few components. We want that message component. So this is going to be from dot forward slash components, and we are going to take in that message component. So we do need to alert this. So we will import this, and we will throw in message right here. And the last thing we need is our add to cart action. So this is the action we just made in the last video. So we'll just import that from, it's going to be from actions, so forward slash actions, and then add to cart actions or cart actions, and then this will be uh, add to cart. So that's our imports overall. And in here, we just want to destructure a few things. So we are going to need match, location, and history here. So we are going to need match, match and location and history, these three things. So history, and we are going to start working with this to actually get some data out of our browser, okay, or out of the URL. Now from our URL, we want to use match and location to actually get some data. So remember that we are not always going to pass in a product ID or quantity, but when we do, we want to get this data. So let's create a variable, and we will call this product ID, and this is going to be set to match. We have done this before, so match.parents. And then this will be ID right here, parents.id. So that's going to get the product ID if we have one. So we are only going to fire off our add to cart action if we have a product ID. And so for now, we just need to get this, and the next thing we want to do is check the quantity. So we are just going to do const, and remember, we are not always going to have a quantity either. So we are going to do qty, and we need to get this out of our URLs. So we are going to pass this into our URL. We did this in the last video, and to get it, we are just going to do location dot search. And let me console this out so you can see what's happening, because we are going to have to actually pull out a number out of here. So we'll just do console.log, and we'll throw in quantity right here. So I'm going to throw that in as a string and then actually throw in the value so we can see it. And let's go to our front end. So we go to inspect right now here. If we load our cart page without any parameters, let's see what the console gives us. So quantity QTY is set to nothing. So we see QTY here. So we don't have any parameter. But if we go into, let's say, our airports, and we are going to do, let's quantity 3, just so once we add this, if we go into our console, we can see the question mark and the quantity equals 3. What we need to do here is we need to pull out this 3 right here, and we need to pull it out as a number. So we are going to use the split method to actually split this between this equal sign, and then pull out that number. So we don't want the question mark and quantity, we just want that value. So to do this, what we are going to do is we are just going to set up this quantity with a parameter right here, or with a condition, and we are just going to say if this exists. So if we have a quantity, let's go ahead and do location dot search, and we need to split this. So we are going to do location dot search, and if it exists, we just want to do dot split, and we want to split this by the equal sign. So we are going to split it by that, and this will turn it into an array. So I will show you in a second. We just need to write our else statements. So if we don't have one, let's just set quantity to 1. And now let's take a look at what it is. So quantity is going to be set to, let's go to add to cart. We'll add it again, and we'll set this to Shevan. Now we get back this array, so we split it by the equal sign, and we need to take out this 7, and we need to go ahead and turn it into a number 2. So an array starts at the index 0. So we are going to set this to index of 1. So we are going to do quantity split, and we want the second index. So we are just going to do 1, and I need to turn this into a number. So we'll just do number, and we'll wrap this right here. So wrap that response, and that should give us now the quantity, actual quantity here. So just to add to cart again, we'll set another number, and now we get that quantity. So we turn this into an array, and then we split it by that equal sign, and we got the second index. So now we actually want to dispatch our action. So let's go ahead and remove our console right there, and we'll set up use dispatch, and we are going to dispatch this action only if we have a product ID, because if we just go to this page by going to our cart page, let's say we just go to cart right here, we are not going to have a quantity and an ID. So we only want to fire off our add to cart when we have that. So we'll set up our use dispatch, and this is going to be set to dispatch. So going a little too fast here, so let's just do dispatch, and we are going to set that to this right here. And we have our dispatch. We want to create our use effect here. So let's just do use effect, and we want to throw in our arrow function here. So to actually fire this off, we want to make sure that this is dependent on the product ID. So remember, we are not always going to have that product ID. So we'll just write that condition, and we are going to say if the product ID exists. So if we are actually adding a product to our cart, let's do product ID. Then we want to fire off this. So fire off this add to cart. action. So if we go into our cart action, this action requires an ID and it requires the quantity. So we'll just go ahead and use dispatch right here. So dispatch, and we want to fire off that action. So we'll just do add to cart, and we want to pass in those parameters. So the product ID and then the quantity. So we'll make this use effect. We'll add in the dependencies. We'll just do dispatch here, and then uh, we'll throw in our product ID and our quantity. So what we are doing here is we are dispatching this action, and this action is actually going to update our state, and it is going to add our items into our local storage. So when we save this, let's go into our console and see what's going on here. So if I hit refresh there, so we added the item with the ID of 1. So the airports, and we set the quantity to 10. So we go into our store, we should be able to see that. So let's go into Redux. And now in our state, we can see our store has 1 item. So we have our cart items and we have 1 item in there. So we have this array and we see our airports. Now we can add another item. So let's go into this. Let's do this play station, and we'll set this to 5. We'll add to cart. And if we go into our store, we should see this add to our array. So now we have 2 items. So we can see 2 objects in here, and those were both added. So we are firing off that action. And if we go into local storage, we can now see these items in our local storage. So if I refresh this, so let's go ahead and just remove all of that. We can still see our items in cart, and then our state gets updated based off of what's in here. So that's pretty neat. And what we want to do next is actually pull this data in, console it out. So we'll still have not gotten the data in our within our component here. So to actually pull the data before we start building out this page and rendering out our cart, we are going to need to use the use selector here. So let's go ahead and get that. And then we just want to console out our cart right here. So let's just do const, and then we will say cart. And this is going to be set to use select, and we want to pull out the part of the state. So we are just going to use an arrow function, and we just want to say state dot cart, and let's console this out, and then we'll actually move to the next video. Actually, I want to destructure this first. So we'll just say const, and then we'll just do cart items. So we want to get the items out of cart. So we'll do cart items, and this is going to be set to cart right here. So we are just destructuring the cart, and we are pulling out the cart items. Now we can console this out. So we'll do console.log, and let's throw that in here. So let me just add the comma there, and I will add the colon so we can see the difference. And let's go into our console now. And if I refresh this now, we can see our core items, or we should be able to see. We need to go to the actual carts. So we'll go into cart, and there we go. So we got our cart items, and in the next video, we just want to build out our cart page right here out of these cart items. So we are able to update it, add to cart, and we want to start building our page now.